Greetings, and thank you for joining us for the 12th episode of DC Animation with Spenser and Friends. This is an LMG Podcast Production. Today, I am joined by a dear friend.
It'll be cool if you introduce me. Can you introduce me?
All right. Today I'm joined by Jordan. Oh, but not the Jordan with whom you are familiar, not the Jordan of the league. This is a different Jordan.
The white
This
one.
is a whiter Jordan. um
Yeah.
he's he is definitely a dear friend, but he might be the whitest guy I know. Um and what I mean by that is he did a 23andMe and all of it was the mountains of Caucasus.
Yep.
All of it.
Yeah.
Not an
Very much
ounce
so.
of melanated region. And that's fine. We're inclusive here. So Jordan, real quick, can you tell me about your DC consumption? Any comic books, video games, movies, TV shows? What DC are you consuming or have you consumed in your time?
So I wouldn't dabble too much into the comic books. I would probably call myself a normie when it comes to more of the um DC side of things, but definitely the movies, video games. I'm huge in the video games. Any kind of Lego collectible. I was all over as a kid. But yeah, I digested a lot of DC because Batman was my favorite superhero growing up. And so I had Batman everything, dressing up as Batman and taking down my uncle, making him dress up as like the Joker. That was just that was it for me. So it's a big Batman guy. So yeah, it opened my mind to the DC universe.
I like it. I like it. Batman was my introduction into this as well. So we have that in common. And with that, I appreciate you for joining us on this journey through DC animation. Today's film is Batman Year One, released October 18th, 2011, and the comic book on which it was based is of the same name. I will read a synopsis in my own words, and then we're just going to talk about it. So, we open with a plane flying over Gotham and its story being narrated by Bruce Wayne. James Gordon is on a train and his inner monologue is pretty much shitting all over Gotham City. Gordon meets Flass at the train station and tells him that Gotham is a great place when you're a cop. Bruce is returning to Gotham City after 12 years of being gone. Gordon watches Flass abuse a youth and chooses to study the situation for future reference. Flass goes to Commissioner Gordon and goes to the commissioner and tells him that Gordon isn't "quote unquote" fitting in, and Gordon gets jumped by some Batmen, as in masked men with bats. Flass is obviously behind it and even threatens Barbara, Gordon's pregnant wife, which was a mistake. Bruce goes on a recon mission on the strip in disguise and ends up catching a lot of attention and goes one-on-one with Selina Kyle. The police show up and shoot Bruce, and they put him in the police car. Of course, he's able to escape, and Gordon is pissed and decides to go find Flass. They go one-on-one, and Gordon beats his ass and leaves him naked in the snow. Bruce has a flashback to the death of his parents, and a bat flies through his window. And that's the thing that he needed to be like, yes, Batman. That's what we're doing. It is then that he knows what he must do. And so Gordon hears about a hostage situation and rushes over because he knows that the officers that are already there, if they handle it, it will be a bloodbath. So Gordon is able to handle the situation, but the Force really doesn't like him. They want to do something about him, but they have to wait because Gordon is getting good press. Gordon laments about the idea of bringing an innocent child into this world, and Gordon is having a meeting with the other police officers about a new vigilante that has shown up, the Batman. The commissioner is having dinner with the crime lords, and Batman shows up and lets them know that no one is safe. So, of course, the commissioner tells Gordon to take care of it. Gordon is attempting to lay traps, but none of them are working. Gordon thinks that Harvey Dent might be Batman, so he interviews him. When Gordon leaves, we find out that Batman was hiding there the whole time, so they are in contact. Essence suggests that Bruce Wayne could be Batman when suddenly she and Gordon find themselves face to face with Batman. Since the police know what building Batman is in, they bomb the entire building and get the order to deliver a body. No prisoners. So SWAT goes to war with Batman and he calls in Bat reinforcements. Gordon finds himself alone with Essen and Selina becomes Catwoman. Gordon is trying to come after Flash, but isn't really getting anywhere. So Batman steps in, and suddenly Gordon has all the information he needs to take Flash down. The commissioner then threatens to blackmail Gordon because they have evidence of the affair that Gordon is having with Essen. As they're leaving the doctor's office, Gordon and his wife go to Wayne Manor to interview Batman. They meet with him, and he is in full Playboy mode. After the interview, Gordon tells his wife about the affair. Batman is listening in on a conversation that Falcone is having when Catwoman shows up, and Batman has to knock everybody out and leave. Falcone wants to come after Gordon, so he puts out the order and lures Gordon out of the house. His wife and son are then kidnapped. He is able to free his wife, but they drive off with his son. The chase begins, and Bruce Wayne is not far behind. He promises Barbara that he will not let their son die. A fight ensues, and everyone falls off a bridge. Bruce is able to save the baby. Flash snitches on the commissioner, and they give a nice little Joker tease. Credits. And so, Jordan, what'd you think of the movie?
I thought this was very much a Gordon movie, right?
Oh.
This was, I would say, more of the movie was about Gordon for sure. That was my main takeaway from it. Overall, fantastic. I didn't realize. So I would watch the animated TV shows as a kid, Batman Beyond, and I did not realize these animated movies were as vulgar as they are. And I'm sure we'll dive into it. But some of the stuff I was blown away. But yeah, I thought it was a great movie. I thought Gordon had his, like I said, this is definitely Gordon's movie in my opinion. You get to know more about him than you really do Batman. I have a lot of questions that I was going to pose to you. Like, it says Batman was overseas for 12 or 13 years while he was away after his parents got murdered. Is that anywhere else, any other Batman literature?
Yes, I think that it probably is because that's kind of consistent across his origin story. So we usually just find out, like, the surface level stuff is his parents were shot in an alley and he becomes vengeance. He becomes the Knight. He becomes Batman. But he had to get all of those skills somewhere. And
Right.
So it is usually a part of his story that he spends a bunch of time honing his body, honing his mind, and like getting himself right to be Batman. And so usually we just hear about his time with the League of Shadows. That's, with
Right.
yeah, with Raish, and that's where he learns a lot of his combat skills and all that. And so that's usually all we get into, just depending on what you're reading, or seeing for that matter. But it's pretty consistent that, yeah, he leaves and he spends a lot of time in the mountains and just in fucking Tibet and just wherever, learning a bunch of skills. And we've seen in an earlier movie. So in episode 3, we discuss Batman Gotham Knight. And we see some of his background unfold in that movie as well. So we see he's learning pain management from one of the people while he's overseas. We see that he is kind of helping out in the relief effort. And so that's where he learns some medical skills. Um, we've already discussed that in a lot of things we see him in the League of Shadows, and so there are some things that do dive more deep into what he's actually doing in that time. A lot of prequel material, but yes, that is consistent. Him being gone for a while and then coming back to Gotham as Batman because he had to go acquire all of those skills.
Right. I drew some of that was, Dark Knight-esque. Um, so I kind of had a feeling that's where it was touching on. But yeah, I didn't know if it was in any other literature, either like comic books, but
Oh yeah, it
yeah, that
absolutely is.
was that's cool. Um, yeah, how about yeah, I mean, Gordon's buff, dude. Gordon is ripped.
Gordon's a fucking problem.
Where
And
where
that's the thing.
where did
Usually,
this guy come from?
usually by the time we see Gordon, he's an older guy.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and he's already commissioner. Like we're seeing a young Gordon who like just arrived, and that's the whole thing with the year one is we're seeing all of the early stuff because again, usually we see an older Gordon who's already running things or whatever. So yeah, early Gordon, yeah, that man
Big
is
problem.
yeah, big problem.
Yeah. Is there anything on his origin? Like why is he such a problem? Where did he
Now
come from?
now that I don't
Interesting.
know. I do know that he was in Chicago and
What part?
I don't know.
South
Um,
side. Gotta
uh,
be.
I mean, quite possibly, and it could be a fictionalized version of Chicago. Who knows? But I know that that's where he came from. I don't know much about Gordon before this. I just kind of know what the movie tells me. So he was there. He was trying to do good work. He takes down a cop that puts a bad light on him, so they send him off to the worst place they can think of. Is kind of the vibe I got. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Gordon's time before this, but I'm sure
Yeah,
that there is some expanding on that somewhere.
because he's a little bit all over the place. I mean, he's adultery, is going on.
Yeah,
I
that's
had,
a thing.
a little immaturity from Gordon, but at the same time, he's kicking ass and leaving Green Berets wieners in the snow. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because he's he let us know up front he's a problem. Like he said, it's been a while since I've had to take down a Green Beret,
yeah,
and Green
that's
Berets are
yeah. You don't mess with those guys,
yeah, they're a problem. So
right?
yeah, I mean, with comic books, we always see the person with the particular set of skills.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that makes sense. And that's one of the things that I did appreciate about this is we see a Gordon who's not perfect. He
Yeah.
he makes mistakes, and we see it handled um because I thought that the police force like put S in there on purpose. Like I thought that she was a plant and that was their
Mm.
goal was to get some dirt on him through her. But whenever they had the conversation and she was like, I'll request a transfer, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This actually just happened naturally. She wasn't like a part of the whole thing.
That was a good idea. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, she could have been. But yeah, when she said, she's ready to transfer, yeah, that's a little immaturity from Gordon. But he's a young gun, man, especially in Gotham. I mean, you know, also at the same time, it's Gotham City, baby. It's Gotham City.
Yeah.
Gordon can do whatever he wants if he's out there doing that. But he's also, I will say, in the very beginning of the movie, he said he hopes his is it his girlfriend or his wife?
It's his wife. Like
Oh,
that's Barbara Gordon. Like that
okay.
is yeah, they are married.
Smoking hot, by the way. He said that he hoped that the test was negative. He didn't want to raise a child in Gotham City.
Yeah. And
That's heavy.
and that's one of the questions that I was going to ask you is as a relatively new father, what were your thoughts on that? Because we, lived through the pandy,
Hmm.
and there are definitely some issues in the world. And so how did that hit your ear?
Yeah, that was really heavy. I was like, wow, how you must really be in a tough situation. And it's hard for me to relate. Like the toughest thing I think I had to go through with my kid is the formula shortage. And I know that didn't sit right with you. We've talked about that. Um, but Gotham, I mean, there's got to be a lot worse than formula shortages in Gotham. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So,
like the level of crime that just occurs is like it's comic book level crime.
yeah, yeah. I was trying to relate a place like where would I be in the world where I'm just like, nope, not having a kid. And there's a few that come to mind, but cities, man, in America, I don't know. It's heavy. It is pretty heavy.
Okay, okay. Before we get more into the story and the things that happen, what were your thoughts on the art style?
I liked it, to be honest. I can't really relate it to too much. But it's DC, so it's cinema, you know? It's great. I liked it. I liked the sound effects and everything. I liked the voice actors. Um, the animation was a little, I guess I was taken back at first because it was a little bit more, I'm gonna sound dumb for saying this, but it kind of felt more like an like anime style of film. It wasn't like direct, I don't know how to say it. It wasn't like some of the animated stuff that I see today.
Okay, and
Um,
and that's the thing. Like one of the things that these DC animated movies are able to do is experiment with the art styles because some of them stand alone, some of them continue, and there are even some that are like a sequel that the art style changes. Um, so yeah, like there's a lot of options. And speaking of anime, again, a movie that I reviewed earlier in the series, in episode 3, Batman Gotham Knight, is absolutely anime based.
really.
So yeah, I think that if you haven't already, you should definitely watch that one. I think you might enjoy it.
Because I
Uh,
everything I relate to is Batman Beyond. Because I just watched the hell out of that as a kid. So everything that I can compare it to is that, and it didn't feel like Batman Beyond at all.
yeah, no, it definitely no. This is a little different. Um,
Definitely.
Now, one thing that I will say, I could get behind the art style, but I prefer for there to be whites in people's eyes as opposed to there being like just skin and eyes.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very valid point.
And that's just that. I mean, that's just me. Like as far as preference, it wasn't necessarily bad, but I noticed it. Um, because like if their eyes, like since their eyes were closed off, like there should have been whites in there, and
Yeah.
it was weird that there weren't. But other than that, I thought the art style was good. Um, I will say this is a pretty like this might be the most direct adaptation so far between comic book and film. Like
That's
like
that's what I heard.
they almost take stuff verbatim. There are
Yeah.
some like because they show you some panels at the end of the movie, and
Mhm.
they show you like some of that shit is just in the movie.
Yeah.
Like
That's
this
what I
is
heard when I was doing my research was that it's very, very close to the comic.
yeah, like this is just the comic book
Yeah.
in a movie. Like it's again like so far probably the most direct adaptation.
Very
Um
successful comic though, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
that's why people loved that the movie stayed true.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like the comic series continued. So there was a year two. I think there may have been a year three.
Mhm.
And then there's a movie that we'll discuss later in this series that is a prequel to, or I guess this is a prequel to that,
Yeah.
technically. But yeah, we'll get into that. So one of the things that I thought was interesting, what are your thoughts on Letterman jackets?
Dude, it's in my notes. It's in my notes. Because I noticed that too. I was very taken back by it. I personally, Letterman jackets belong in high school. You're done after high school. Um, there are, I have seen some fashion pieces where, high ends will try to bring in, a Letterman jacket. Or Drake, for instance, his OVO Letterman jacket. Cool. But it doesn't belong on a 8 to 5er, you know what I mean? Or a cop. So I don't know if you want to lead into where we saw that, but when I when I saw that, I put my hand over my face. Um, it was bad. But it fit the character, you know what I mean? Like it fit perfectly because I think he comes out of the house and he said, "No, I said posse," and you know where like he's alluding to, and he's in his Letterman jacket with his boys. It's not good. It's not a good look.
Yeah, and it was really good to me because I was like, we've seen that guy. Like we know that
Yeah.
guy. We know the guy who like did really well in high school, had a really good time, was clearly a bully to the other students, and he's just trying to live in that day. And
Mm.
I bet he thinks he's cool as fuck for wearing his leather or for wearing his leather
Oh, he stepped out of the house. Yeah, dripping.
yeah,
Yeah, he
oozing with confidence.
yeah, for sure.
And,
And
and
he
yeah, he thought he was killing
no
them.
girls there either. No girls were at the house probably. It was just him and his boys. But
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like we
yeah,
saw him in his natural element, which was him in a Letterman. And
yeah,
again, like you said, that needs to stay in high school.
yeah. As soon as you graduate, dude, I'm talking. It's no more. You walk the stage, you're done. It's in the
Yeah,
closet for 60 years.
yeah. Like
Exactly.
it's passed down as an heirloom
Yeah.
to your
Yeah. Yeah.
grandchildren or something.
Right. Yeah.
Because yeah, that was
Cringed
I
really hard.
yeah, but I thought I was like, that's perfect. Like that's
Yeah.
exactly correct.
Yeah.
Like they knew what they were doing when they put him in that Letterman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Um, so fun fact, did you ever watch Gotham, the show?
A little bit. I do know where I think you're alluding this to because the voice actor for Batman is
Was
also,
is
yeah.
James Gordon from Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have said in numerous episodes, I love DC's continued use of people. I love that DC will
Mhm.
take the same people and rotate them in and out of stuff. And so for the guy who plays James Gordon in Gotham to voice Batman in a movie about Gordon was great to me.
Sick. Yeah. Very, very cool. Now, I didn't realize, like, I knew it was Cranston that was doing Gordon, but is Cranston in anything else that's DC?
I don't think so. I think that Bryan Cranston should play Commissioner Gordon in real life. And I've been saying that
Dude,
since
right?
since before I knew that he did this. I wanted Bryan
Mhm.
Cranston for James Gordon. Like I've wanted
Before he
that.
was Heisenberg.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
well, when he was Heisenberg is when I was like, he needs to be James Gordon.
Yeah. That would be an awesome James Gordon.
Yeah. Like it should absolutely be him. So yeah, whenever he was James Gordon in this, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Somebody heard me. And
Yeah, he killed it.
yeah, they need him in live action. Speaking of that, what were your thoughts on the telling of two stories, or the fact that this movie kind of goes back and forth between Gordon and Bruce, and then eventually brings them together?
Yeah, I would love to dive more into Batman's side of things when it comes to like his origin and things like that. But I wasn't disappointed at all because Gordon's a character that I've always thought of as very important, obviously, to the Batman story. But seeing that side of him and where he, his arrival, his literal arrival into Gotham was cool to see. Um, but I did want to see, I will say, I wanted to see more of Batman. That's why it felt more of Gordon's story than it was, Bruce Wayne turning into Batman. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that this was absolutely more of a James Gordon story. And
Yeah.
it definitely gives us insight on how their relationship happened, because we often just see Batman like he's already the commissioner and they already have a relationship, they already have an understanding. And I like that we got to see kind of how they got there, the early steps to, like, before they knew each other, Gordon was going after him, and then we see that Gordon, kind of makes peace with him because he knows that he's here trying to do the right thing. I feel like in most things, Gordon doesn't know that he's Bruce Wayne. And in this, I mean, he did the, I can't see anything without my glasses.
Yeah.
But Essen had already like made it clear, like, that's absolutely who that is. Because one of the things they said was like, you need a lot of money to roll around like he does. And I was like, why is this the first time I'm hearing anyone point this out?
Yeah, I know.
Like, surrounded by detectives, and this is the first time somebody was like, yeah, you need money to operate the way Batman does.
Yeah, I always relate it to, kind of the Dark Knight stuff too. I'm like, yeah, if you're driving a tank around or a Apache helicopter, there's some bread, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of funny to be like, yeah, that is very true. You need some money to be Batman.
You might need a couple resources in order to do these things.
Yeah. Not any ordinary guy on the street is doing this.
Yeah. And then she also pointed out, like, Bruce Wayne returns, which was in the news, and then suddenly there's this Batman guy. Like,
yeah, too many stars are aligning. It was obvious.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say I would like to have seen kind of a little more between Batman and Harvey Dent, because they obviously knew each other, but they just kind of glazed over that.
Yeah, that's very true. How about Bruce's Playboy scene?
That was that was good.
That was weird, right? It was kind of weird.
He leaned in, but like it felt like an act. Like Gordon was like, that felt like an act.
Can you imagine? Yeah, if you just go to it's too stereotypical. It was too stereotypical. But to see Bruce in that, atmosphere was awesome.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even speak a language.
Yeah, she doesn't speak a language I know, except for one. It's like, oh, you dirty dog.
Oh yeah.
And he had the little tiny robe.
Yeah. Oh. And then they leave, and then he offers her or gives her 5,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like, that was the easiest 5,000 you've ever made. You better shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much what he said.
Oh yeah, Bruce.
Yeah, like Alfred will show you out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Goodness. So how familiar are you with Catwoman?
Oh, I knew we were coming here because I have a problem with this.
Let's go. Let's get into it.
Catwoman is yoked. Okay. She is huge. Okay. And I'm treading the line, but Catwoman is very, very masculine in this movie.
Okay.
I need to see her in the comic book because in everything else I've seen, Catwoman is still kind of a a feminine threat, a person to be reckoned with. But in this movie, she'll whoop someone's ass. And I don't know if I should say I liked her role in this movie. It was nice to kind of see her and kind of like her, I don't want to say origin, because I don't think it definitely wasn't that, but to see her like kind of jealous of Batman, that was cool. But yeah, she wasn't she wasn't what I thought she was going to be when I first saw her. I'll say that.
Okay. Um.
I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Oh well, I don't think that she lacked any femininity necessarily, but she was built like a UFC fighter.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
she had some fucking shoulders.
if you're listening to this, you need to go Google Catwoman and Batman Year One, because I'm not over exaggerating. She is huge, and she might be 6'1" in this movie. She might. She's 6'1", 185. Okay. She's fighting lightweight and in UFC right now.
Because yeah, like she was going toe to toe with Bruce. Whenever they were just in the street, like like he had to go one-on-one with her.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit trifling because the girl just stabbed him in the leg and all he did was like, get off me. And then Selena gets mad, jumps down there and just starts throwing hands. And it's like, no, she did that to herself. Like, she gonna stab him in the leg and be like, come on, guys, get him. And he was like, get off me.
Well, okay, time out. How old was that girl, we think?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That's a good question.
Because he said, how old are you? And she said, as old as you want me to be.
Yeah.
So not old enough is probably the answer. If I was going to shoot in the dark, I'd say 15.
Yeah, I think I was going towards 16, 15, 16. It's probably in the ball field.
Yeah, not old enough. I know that.
Definitely. That alley or that street, yeah, you don't belong there.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The guy, the pimp man, he was a terrible fucking guy.
Oh, dude.
On purpose.
Right. But, you gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah, for that line of work, you can't really be upstanding. But yeah, I guess I didn't think that Catwoman lacked femininity when I saw her. I just knew she was strong, but like that didn't take away. Like I didn't see her as masculine in this movie. But yeah, she was built for tough in this movie. That's definitely true.
Well, because the first scene we see her in, she's in the window and she's with a man or a client, perhaps, right? So it was weird for me to think that Catwoman is in that line of work. But
I think that's pretty standard.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, you saw the Batman, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I would imagine that's kind of your point of reference for Catwoman, unless you've seen her in something else.
I've seen her in a lot of the older Batman movies, but when I say this, I'm like relating it to. I'm just saying, what man is paying to hook up with her? There's
a market for everybody.
She's yoked, dude.
There's a market for everybody. You're right. There are some people who specifically want that. It's called death by snoo snoo.
Snoo? What is that? Oh no.
That is a reference that some people will get, but it's from Futurama.
Went over my head.
Yeah, and that episode is hilarious. I recommend it. But yeah, there are people who are absolutely into that. And again, she was strong, but I didn't think that I didn't think she was masculine. And I guess a lot of other people didn't either. Because I imagine she does well. Catwoman is usually, in most cases, looked at as incredibly beautiful and like sought after.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, my Catwoman is definitely a great portrayal would be the Batman. That's how I've always kind of thought of her.
okay, and that makes sense. I feel like other than this, Catwoman has been portrayed as a lot slimmer, but the fact that Catwoman is doing the stuff she does means she should be built like a gymnast. And this Catwoman was built like a gymnast, that I've seen anyway, because she's very agile and is able to do a lot of high jumping, a lot of swinging, like a lot of very athletic shit. And so she should look like an athlete. And in this, she does.
Michelle Pfeiffer, that's the Catwoman. That's the OG Catwoman for me.
Yes. And
And
that makes
Batman
sense.
Returns. Yeah.
And I feel like for most people, that is Catwoman. Like for people
Yeah.
of a certain age, like for some people, it's Eartha Kitt. But I feel like for most people, Michelle Pfeiffer was their first, like visual Catwoman, as far as
Yeah.
one that can move. So be it TV show, comic, or TV show, movie, any of that. I feel like Michelle Pfeiffer is most people's first Catwoman, and a lot of people's OG, because she's mine.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time I saw Catwoman in motion, and I was like, all right, um, I think Bruce is gonna fold. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
but speaking of that, how do you feel about her being mad about her portrayal in the media, or how she was being treated in the media?
Yeah, she was jealous, right?
She was.
Yeah. She didn't she when the credit went to Batman, she was pretty upset. So she definitely has a side to her that she could be good if she wanted to, I think. But I don't think you can take the streets out of her. I think she is for the streets in this film. This
Okay.
Catwoman is for the streets.
Okay. I I thought that her being jealous was weird, because it's like, so because her the little person that she had with her was like, you don't want anybody to know it's you, right?
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, but I also want people to know it's me.
Hmm.
It's like, but you but you don't, because then you'll get caught and that's going to create issues. So you're trying to keep it a secret, but you're mad that they don't know it's you.
She's in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but then, and her being like, his assistant, they're calling me his assistant. Yeah, I was like, in my head, I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, you
Yeah.
don't, either you go tell them it's you or not. Like,
Right.
like you should be glad that nobody knows you're involved. Like that makes it easier for you to get stuff done, because if they're looking for you, you're going to have issues. So just let them think it's Batman and run what you do. It just like it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it was odd. Her that's what I don't know. I don't know how much I liked Catwoman's presence in this.
Okay.
From top to bottom, you know.
All right.
I was intimidated, dude. She's a brick house. Um, what was I gonna say about Catwoman? I had something. Oh, I did. I really enjoyed Batman's motorcycle.
Okay.
That was cool to see, and it kind of hit home with the Batman, because although his car in that was the coolest Batmobile in my opinion, um, I loved to see Bruce on any kind of motorcycle. I think that's awesome. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what movie I saw him on. I guess originally where he's storming. It may have been Batman Returns where he comes out of the waterfall on the bike, and it is, to me, it's the coolest coolest part in any movie I've ever seen.
For me, I really like his Dark Knight bike because like the
Okay, yeah.
wheels do that turn and shit.
And they make the sick noise.
Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
the sound
Yeah.
designer in that movie, they need that
Crushed.
Oscar. Like, oh. So yeah, like
Yeah.
that. It was that one that I was like, ooh, ooh, I like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I was like, yes, Bruce on a motorcycle. That's what I need.
You can't go wrong though, I guess, right? With Batman on a motorcycle. Like I'm trying to,
No,
what can you put him
agree.
on where he doesn't look cool?
I mean,
A hot air balloon?
I
I'm
mean,
sure
maybe.
he'd make it cool. I
Yeah, I was
bet
gonna
he'd make
say
it cool.
it'd be a sick hot air balloon.
Yeah. A
Uh,
blimp?
see, and seeing him standing on top of a blimp, like that's still, I'm still sold.
Right.
Like if he had a bat
It's-
blimp, yeah, but a bat helicopter still
oh
be good.
yeah. It's impossible to make him not look cool.
Yeah, so I mean that's why he's the favorite. It makes sense. So I okay.
What did you
So
think about uh Bruce getting shot in the alley by the cop? No
yeah,
questions.
let's talk about that. Um, when it happened, I was surprised,
Yeah.
but I was like, "Oh, does this just speak to where we are?" Because uh, they said freeze. He didn't move. Pow.
Yeah.
And it was
Hands up.
like he didn't move. He was going to.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Oh,
felt really familiar. I didn't like
yeah.
it, and
That was
I wonder if they, because that happening to Bruce was funny to me because I'm one of the people who is of the opinion that the reason he shows the bottom of his face is so people know he's white. And so that doesn't happen to him. And here we are. Like in Gotham, those bullets are rated E for everyone.
yeah, that's
Because
very true.
like I guess they didn't know who he was because he was in makeup or whatever.
Hmm.
And he went through the whole like, it just takes some disguise and like a very distinctive scar. So like they didn't know he was Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
But uh maybe it's maybe it's just showing like what happens to poor people.
Yeah, yeah. I would be curious to ask, where that came from. But I think it was just mainly how, yeah, you said it best. Gotham, no one's safe in Gotham.
Yeah, like they don't
I
give a
honestly,
fuck.
right. It could have been Bruce Wayne standing there in a suit, and I think they would have shot him. No, I take that back.
No, no, because
You're right. Yeah,
they would have known there'd be repercussions for that.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Um, that kind of goes to my next question is I always thought it was funny how Batman's parent, this is not funny, it's terrible. But why, hey, when you go to the movies and you're a billionaire, millionaire, thousandaire, you don't take the alleyway home, right?
Yes, I agree.
Why did they take the alleyway home?
Um perhaps it was a shortcut. There are certain things where they they just took the alley, like that's just the way it happened. There are other things where the reason they took the alley is because there was a lot of commotion and a lot of stuff happening in the streets, and so they took the alley to kind of get away from that and like be safer. So
Hmm.
in most stories, yeah, they're just taking the alley. They're just like, oh, we're just going to stroll through here to get to the limousine or whatever. Because I would think Alfred need to be out front.
Exactly. And
Uh,
and we wouldn't even be having this conversation
yeah,
right
like
now.
so
We'd be talking about Superman.
exactly. And so I don't have like logistical answers for you on why that normally happens because I've seen, it play out where, they're walking through the alley and Bruce is, being a kid and like pretending to be Zorro and all that.
Mhm.
And then I've also seen where there's like a riot in the street. And so they go to the alley to try to avoid that.
Isn't that what happened in the Joker? There
Yes.
was something going on the street. Yeah. Okay.
And
And that
so,
would make sense. And they're like hiding from it. They're trying to get away, but trouble's lurking around the corner.
yeah, trouble is
Pearl
everywhere.
necklaces, boom. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that would
So,
make sense.
yeah, but that's a good question. Like, yeah, if I have any, I don't see myself being in an alley. Um,
Never. I would go into the commotion in the streets.
yeah,
Because
like
if it's going on in the streets, I don't want to know what's going on in the alley.
yeah, it's dark in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know, yeah, like there are just people lurking in alleys. Like that's
Yeah.
just kind of, and maybe Batman's origin is the reason I know that. But
That's very true.
I feel like, yeah, like there's, because you and I know a person whose name we will not say, that walked through an alley and got jumped.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
we do.
in real life, not that long ago, like in 2023, like was leaving a place, walked through an alley to get to his car, and got jumped by 3 hooligans.
Alleys will forever be dangerous.
Yeah,
Forever.
like that's just what they are.
Yeah, that's their
So
purpose. You go down an alley to get shanked.
I'm gonna say
Or
this, and it's gonna sound terrible, but if you go down an alley, you're asking for it.
yeah.
That's what alleys are for. Like,
You're definitely asking for it.
like if you want to fight that day, find an alley.
Yeah, definitely. And
Oh,
walk around with a chain on in the alley
yeah, yeah. Get you any
with some
piece of
change,
jewelry.
some
Yeah,
change in your pocket.
yeah.
Jiggling.
You need to jingle when you go through. Yeah, if you're looking for a fight, yeah, find you an alley, and yeah, you'll be able to throw hands,
Yeah. Then you can
and
really hone in on those skills.
you'll be able to call self defense too, because like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, officer, they jumped me, and now they're all in the hospital.
They're all dead.
Yeah. Oh, and of course there are no cameras in this alley because it's a fucking alley,
Right.
and cameras
Absolutely
don't
not.
work in alleys. So
I think
yeah,
everyone is under the same conclusion that alleys are for trouble.
yes,
No cameras will be
alleys
put there.
alleys are for trouble. Like that, if you go down an alley, buddy system.
Well, if you take your buddy, you're also you're gonna get shanked with your buddy. I mean, there's no
Like this, there's gonna be 2 shanks instead of 1.
yeah. There's no buddy system unless you take some Green Berets with you. Other than
And
that, man, you're screwed.
and we'll see if that even works.
I was about to say there might be a Gordon lurking in the alleyway.
Yeah. So who knows? So moral of the story, kids, avoid alleys at all
Definitely.
costs. Because
Absolutely. Daytime, nighttime, morning, sun, rain.
you don't want those problems.
Don't do it.
Oh goodness. Anyway, any other thoughts on the
Oh,
movie? Any? Oh,
can we also talk about what is his name? Is the officer, the Letterman jacket? Is it
Flass.
Blass?
Flass.
Flass. Oh yeah, you're right. Flass. So he sees those 3 kids, right?
Yeah. Let's
And
talk
he-
about. I forgot to bring. Thank you for keeping that. He
I had to
decided,
rewind it. I had to rewind it.
yeah, to look at the other kids. Because
Yeah.
I definitely was. The first time I watched it, I did the same thing. I was like, was there just one?
Yeah. Same.
And yeah, he just
Yeah.
beat the shit out of the one
Just say it.
child.
Yeah.
And it was a child. They were children.
Yeah. He had a comb in his pocket. And then he said something so terrible.
He said, I'm only human, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you, Flash. Like, I'm glad Flash got left butt ass naked in the snow. He deserved it because he was a terrible fucking guy. But yeah, he beat up the only colored kid.
Terrible.
And I don't know if it's because he was the only brown
Right.
kid over there,
Mhm.
but yeah, Flash was basically like, yeah, he was trouble.
Exactly. Threw him in
Of
a
course he
dumpster.
was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And
I'm
that's the
glad
thing.
we had
Like,
the same reaction.
oh yeah, and the fact that James Gordon was like, he's using his Green Beret shit on this child. That's not good.
Not in any circumstance.
Yeah, like you are using your special forces training on this youth that you're far bigger than. You didn't even say anything to him. It's like, hey, kid, uh, uh, like what are we doing?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, when I rewinded it, I was like, did I see that? Rewind. Yep, the only one.
Yep, the only one.
I'd be curious to see if that was on purpose.
I'm sure
Probably,
that
because
I'm
it
sure
just
they
makes
did it
him,
to make us hate him more.
yeah, more of a scumbag.
Yeah, like I think that was because I don't know if it was racially motivated, but it doesn't matter. Like based on what I saw,
Yeah,
I hate this guy already.
but also, Gordon, silence is violence, buddy. Silence is violence. You stood there and didn't do nothing.
And I think Gordon probably figured that was the best decision at the time. I don't necessarily agree with it because that what Gordon did is how a lot of young people end up hospitalized and or dead.
Yeah,
As far as police brutality goes. Um because there are a lot of people who will just stand by and watch it happen. And while Gordon did it for, can you really call it a right reason? Because Gordon was trying to gather information to be able to take him down because he knew he was dirty.
he was studying him for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely studying him. And so I want to say for the quote unquote right reason, but I also struggle to say that there's a right reason to allow that.
I feel like he could have stepped in a little bit, or hey, or go punch the white kid in the face. That way, it's not a hate crime.
At a minimum.
Yeah, give the white kid
Like,
a
yeah,
licking to go home with,
yeah,
because then
like
it's like, okay,
if those
everyone got beat up.
if those hands are rated E for everyone, then whatever. You just hate
Yeah,
young people. But yeah, for you to be like, you and then just beat his ass like unnecessarily. Like I don't even remember why he did it. Like it felt like a do you have my money? But
I thought they were like almost homeless because they were around a burning trash can, right, or something
probably,
along the likes of that.
yeah.
And yeah, just s- turns on the siren, gets out, and just whoops his ass, throws him in the dumpster. Simple as
Yeah.
that. And
But that's the thing, like that's the kind of shit that I like when you see him in the Letterman jacket, you're like, yep, that's exactly what it, yeah,
perfect.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Flash is just a
He
really,
is the worst.
yeah, just an awful dude. And the problem is he probably accurately represents a lot of what's happening.
He beat up the guy at the train station. Like we're not even 5 minutes into this movie. And I don't know what you call that guy, the bookseller, right?
Yeah.
And just gives Gordon an introduction to how Gotham goes.
Yep. And so yeah, that's
But he ends up with his penis buried in the snow. So that's a
yep.
good way to end his career.
And Gordon was like, he's gonna make up some shit about 10 dudes who jumped him.
Yeah.
And
Oh, was that not hilarious whenever he's in a neck brace and Gordon's making him
yeah, recount the
elaborate?
story. Yeah, like what happened to you? Why don't you tell us again?
Yeah, thought that was
And
hilarious.
he's like, he's not human. I promise. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that
Oh,
was awesome.
that was so good.
There's so many good little things in this movie, just like that make it enjoyable to watch through
Oh
and
yeah,
through. There's no boring parts of the movie at all.
agreed. Commissioner Loeb was a piece of shit, and yeah, like it's so funny because what happened to him was about right.
Hmm.
Whenever Gordon was like, Commissioner Loeb is pretty calm for a guy who's facing some charges, but he had a scapegoat,
Yep.
and the other dude who was, causing problems and being difficult was in a cell. And I was like, that was like frighteningly accurate.
Yeah,
Because
never they'll never go down.
yeah, like that's exactly how that, because he was at dinner with the highest crime lords in the land. Like
Yeah,
it's yeah, like there was no way that, and that's the thing. Like I feel like in this, like there needs to be justice. Like yes, there absolutely should be, and it would be great if there were, but this story was like very realistic in that, like, no, he's facing these charges, but he's fine,
yeah.
and
I thought
somebody else went to jail for it, so he's gonna be fine.
what did you think about the quote after Batman flips the cop car and he says something on the likes of, "Yeah, they're scum, but scum have families too," and saved them.
Yeah,
That was
and
cool, right?
yeah, that was very Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those, I mean, yeah, those two. One of them, the one who was like, "Why'd you shoot him?" He may not have been a terrible guy, but the other guy was like, he was gonna move. I've seen his type. I was like,
Yeah.
alrighty. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that was very Batman. To say like, yeah, they're fucking dirt bags,
There's a lot
but
of great one-liner quotes in there. The
oh
very
yeah,
first one where he's on Gordon's on the plane. Or no, Bruce is on the plane and he's saying, it looks like a marvel down there, but you can't see, the crime in the streets. That was really cool.
like from up here, it's beautiful,
Right, yeah.
but yeah, down there, which is where Gordon was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gordon was like, this fucking city.
On the
Jesus.
subway.
So yeah, it was yeah, there were a lot of good quotes in this movie.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
movie was like mostly narrated and like inner thoughts
Yeah.
and stuff.
So where does this rank for you for Batman animated?
I think I give this movie about 7.5.
Okay.
Creeping up to an 8.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely a good one. I don't know if I would say this one is as good as Under the Red Hood, but this is definitely a good one. And what I love is this is the point for me when they just get really good. Like the movie that I reviewed before this one was the last one that I was like, I really didn't. Well, not the last one, but like the last one for a stretch where I was like, I didn't care for it. It's on the lower end. It's not my favorite. Like from here up to episode, like from now, the next 10 episodes with like the occasional um 6.5 or 7, it's straight hitters.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get into it because my favorite one is coming up, and that's gonna be good. But yeah, like from here, this is the point I was trying to get to, because oh, they get so good after this.
Are there any rated R ones of Batman that are animated?
I believe so.
Surely.
I think they get rated R a little later. Like because there's some shit I've seen that's like, oh, this has to be rated R. Um,
Yeah.
So I think that we will eventually get to rated R, but we're not there yet. But it's a hard PG-13. Like it's more like a
Mhm.
PG-15
I was about to say, I
in
was
some of
surprised
these.
this one wasn't. I probably sound like a Quaker right now, but I was very surprised that it was PG-13.
But yeah, there's some rated R ones. At least I'm pretty sure. I'd be shocked if there weren't. But yeah, there's cussing and some violence, and yeah, it gets it, and I love it. I love that these movies grew up with me, or at least that's what it feels like, because it feels like
Mhm.
when I was a kid, I had stuff for me at that age, and now that I'm grown, I have had stuff for me at this age,
Yeah, that's very
and
true.
and that is a part of why I wanted to take this journey, because again, I need to bring attention to how good these movies are and how they're for us,
They are. Yeah.
and I love it.
They're
That
very good.
whole There are some people who are like, DC's too dark. Shut your face. It's
Yeah.
appropriately dark, and I am here for it.
That's the power that DC has. If we want to go on a tangent, for DC versus Marvel, that argument that Brandon knows and loves. Um, that's what DC has, that dark grunge, and
Mhm.
they got to bring it to the light, man.
Yeah, they're not afraid of it.
Mm-mm.
They lean into it, and again, that's why we're doing this. We know that DC's live action movies are not anywhere near the MCU as far as quality goes. We understand
Very
that.
hit or miss,
Very
hit or
spotty.
miss.
But with these animated movies, especially from here on,
Rush.
straight quality. I am excited to get into more of these. Like, we've reached the point where I'm like, yes, more.
Yeah.
Oh, they get so good. So yeah, like I will say, like 2011 to like 2015. Well, like 2014. That was a good, well, no, I'll say 2015. That was a good uh point for me, because I was like, oh, all of these are so good.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's gonna be a good time to talk about them. Jordan, what are you looking at on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'd have to put it. It's hard for me to give it an 8, but I want to so bad. I want to give it a nice 8.1,
Okay.
but
I
but
support it.
8.1.
I
That's what I'm
support it.
going with.
No, I think you're good. Um, Now, if you want to compare it to the Batman movies before, then there are two standalone Batman movies that have happened before this one. We have episode 3, which is Batman Gotham Knight, very anime influenced, and then we have episode 8, which is Under the Red Hood. Um,
Hmm.
very good. I would highly recommend, well, take the whole journey. But if you're looking for Batman specifically, as far as what we have talked about so far, definitely watch Under the Red Hood and see which movie you like better.
Will do.
So, anything else on this movie?
Nope. I'm glad I went on this adventure with you, Spencer.
And I hope to see you on more of them.
Oh, I would love to be back.
Okay, okay. And there's more Batman stuff. So if
Yes. Keep throwing them my way.
okay. In the next episode, we will be discussing Justice League Doom. So until then, salutations.